back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So now that we've got the American Rescue Plan almost signed, I'm pretty confident that the signature will be on the document Friday. But I'm taking the win right now. I think it's a good opportunity to take the win, be happy for a little bit. But now that this is passed, it's time to really focus on the other stuff. This is to save us from collapse. I'm talking about the stuff that's going to move us forward. And that is H.R. 1 to get people the right and opportunity to vote, and also the PRO Act, which will give people the right to, well, earn a reasonable living and share in the fruits of their labor. Because we've got an opportunity right now. We've got an opportunity to undo 50 years worth of horrible policies and massive redistribution of wealth now, if we can only get out of our own way. And part of that has to do with getting rid of this arcane tool that Mitch McConnell has used masterfully to derail all progress. And I'm hoping that it's time to return to Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and break the filibuster. And here to share some thoughts on that, I've asked Jimmy Williams to come talk with us. Jimmy is the General Vice President at Large of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. Today, their big announcement, the first building trades union in the country to say it's time to end the filibuster. Jimmy, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you for having me tonight, Rick. I appreciate it.
So this is a pretty big announcement. The unions usually stay out of this kind of stuff. Why'd you jump into it?
So I think it's an easy one, right? We've had, you said it, 50 years. It's longer than that. It's going on 70 years. And, what we know to be true is that 8 times in our recent history, the filibuster has stopped labor law reform, right? It has. We can go back to 2008 with the Employee Free Choice Act, when the majorities were even bigger in the Senate, and one U.S. senator could hold up passing the Employee Free Choice Act.
And that was Arlen Specter.
I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my friend. And I can tell you, if the labor movement didn't learn from that mistake, then I don't know what we can learn from. Arlen Specter said he would not support the bill, and then within 3 months was being primaried and switched his allegiance to the Democratic Party, and the labor movement endorsed him. So it's an easy one to come out against the filibuster. It's simple, right? There's a movement that is happening in this country, and it's real. People were sick of being divided.
Yep.
And they're seeing their government put workers first for the first time and mean it. And we know what the other side is going to do. We know it. They've already done it every single time, and they're on the losing side this time. The tide is turning.
No, and when is it that you go and finally realize that I think it's Maya Angelou who said the quote of, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. When are we going to finally believe that our Republican friends don't care about us? They don't care about the country. They don't care about workers. They only care about themselves and the very wealthy. When do we finally go, oh, I got it?
When do we force them to have their real conversation? When do we force them to actually stop with their fake rhetoric and actually talk about how they help workers, as opposed to doing the things that they've done for generations, which is just continue to divide us?
Yep.
And the filibuster is the tool that's been used. It's the wedge that's been used.
And this
Democrats
is
very light.
Sorry, this is why I say that we need to go back to the good old days and bring back the talking filibuster. I want to hear Mitch McConnell and all of the Republicans explain to me why unions are bad. I want to hear all of them tell me why we should be putting up these massive roadblocks for people to get to exercise the franchise. I want to hear them say it out loud. I want to see them say it out loud. And I think their constituents need to see it as well.
Make them go on record, right? Make them go on record. Because when they do, their old arguments don't work anymore. And they'll say all the things, all the buzzwords, union bosses, union handouts. The truth of it is, 90% of the private sector workforce doesn't even belong to a union, yet 68% of them, when asked, would say they would form a union tomorrow, right? Make them eat their words.
No, absolutely. And it's one of those things that, again, I go back to. It's such a simple thing. Look, if it's so important to you that it has to stop, everything should stop. And you get your stack of Bibles, you get your stack of books, you get whatever you need, and you go in there and you hold the floor. If it is that important, it should stop. Because what happens, and you know this as well as anybody or better than anyone, all they do is they go, oh, we're going to filibuster this. And they go, oh, next. And they go on to something else. I go back to the Clinton era. One of the only reasons I voted for Bill Clinton is he said he was going to pass a strike replacement bill. It came up, one guy, Bob Dole, filibustered that bill, and I didn't hear about it again until the employee free choice came up over a decade later.
We also see it too, Rick, like you mentioned HR 1, right? And that's not being talked about enough, I think, in the labor movement, but obviously we're supportive of, and everybody is, but it is more of an attack on democracy than anything else. When you have, things that are 70 to 75% popular amongst the American public, right? And, you're going to stand in the way, and one person's going to stand in the way for real change. It's about democracy. Democracy was under attack on January 6th, right on display. We all watched it. And I think that was a change. That was a moment that this country changed and said, enough with the divisiveness. We have to move forward. And thankfully, we have an administration that says, yeah, we do. And we're going to put workers first. We're going to put working people first, not union bosses. That argument is so old.
I've never had a union boss. I've been a part of a union all of my working life. Never had a boss. I have had employers that have tried to fire me. I generally have representatives from the union who try and help me. So it's a whole new frame to me, and one I've always despised. But here's the thing, and I think you're absolutely right. The idea that right now the Republicans are doing everything they can do to stop us from exercising our right to vote should kind of explain where their thinking is. They're afraid of we the people. All of the people, and they should be. The fact that not one Republican voted for this rescue plan, I think speaks volumes, especially when you look at the fact that 63% of low-income Republicans want it. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I can say this as a proud building trades worker, there was a time in this country where there were building trades supportive Republicans that would vote on things like Davis-Bacon, but yet maybe not vote party line on labor law reform, right? And infrastructure. Would talk about infrastructure, get reelected on it. They're few and far between. There were only 5 members of the House of Representatives from the Republican Party who voted for the PRO Act. And they came from very strong union markets, union cities, union towns. That party needs to take a look inward. They do.
No, you're absolutely right. You had Brian Fitzpatrick from Philadelphia. Right. You had Chris Smith and Jeff Van Drew from New Jersey. You had John Katko from New York and Don Young from Alaska. Those are your 5. Right. And I remember a time where you probably had 90 Republicans who were labor friendly and would fight back against things like prevailing wage attacks and this stuff. In fact, later in the show, my friend Bob Ney was one of those Republicans back in the early 2000s. And they've all been eradicated from the Republican Party. And
yes,
this is what I keep saying. Please, Republicans, take your party back somewhere to sanity.
Yep.
So let's talk about the PRO Act, since this is labor's, I guess, has to be their number one priority. Why this? Why do you think this is the answer?
I mean, it's long overdue, number one. But, number two, it fixes all it does is bring the balance back to what the original intent of the National Labor Relations Act was, right? And then undo 70 years of just backwards repeal of what the true intent of it was to give the power to the workers, to allow workers to organize. Collective bargaining, it just strengthens what we know is the best tool for workers to make it to the middle class and work, for things that, when we unleashed the power of workers after the passage of the act, we created things like pensions. We created things like healthcare plans. We've seen wages rise. We've seen it work. All it does is take us back to those days. It also fixes all of those loopholes that employers have been able to use, and doing away with things like worker misclassification, which in our industry, at least in the construction industry, is, the tool that has weaponized workers from being able to collectively bargain, right? They don't even have access to collective bargaining when they're classified as independent subcontractors.
Right.
And the repeal of right to work, it has the things in there needed for workers to make the choice. There's nothing in there that says, tomorrow the whole workforce is going to unionize. No, it's going to allow them to have the choice. That argument that workers' freedoms are taken away under unions is bull. It's bull.
No.
If workers don't want to organize, they won't. We all know that. Every organizer that's ever worked an organizing campaign knows when the workers want it, they're going to get it. When they don't, they don't.
Yeah, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink, obviously. But, you brought up an interesting thing, because the building trades model is something that I see as a big part of what the future is going to look like, because we're moving to this gig kind of economy where people are, they're almost independent contractors, but they're reliant on these employers. And there's a whole movement right now, I'm sure you see it, of organizing against the PRO Act, saying, no, they're going to take your freedoms away and make you be an employee. And heaven forbid we have people who are employees. I look at your model as the right one, in that your members don't work for one contractor or another all the time. You move around, but you have a maintenance of wages, a maintenance of benefits, a maintenance of educational opportunities. I see what you guys do as the future for the gig economy, if we make the right choices now.
Yeah, and look, the money interests that are out there in the gig economy are huge. The time to educate folks is now, with this debate and this argument being nationwide. And we've seen where freelancers feel like, the passage of AB 5 in California may have hindered them because their employers sent some of their jobs to other states. Well, the PRO Act is federal law. The PRO Act will give even freelancers the opportunity to organize what they want their industry to look like, right? That's the thing that people have to understand about how industries can organize under the PRO Act. It puts the hands back into the workers. It doesn't take it away.
Now, I've had someone complain to me that they're reinstating the ABC test, which talks about if you truly are an independent contractor, if you truly are self-employed, because clearly, if you are your own boss and you are your own business, it's already a carve out. But the complaint is that by having this strict test, that you're going to force these people to be employees, and I'm looking at this a little differently, and maybe you can help me here, because I'm looking at this ABC test as it's not a matter of whether you can be an independent contractor or not. It's a matter of if you can join a union or not, is what this is about. Or am I misreading how this is being played?
I think it's also about, look, there are places where legitimate independent subcontractors, if that is what they want to do, it's fine. I could take you to job sites in 3/4 of this country where I can walk right on a job site, ask somebody who they work for. They'll say, I work for Joe's Drywall, right? And Joe's Drywall may have 500 people working for him that are all independent contractors. None of them are employees of Joe's Drywall. All of the liability gets shifted over to the individual. They have no workman's compensation insurance. They have no rights under the National Labor Relations Act to collectively bargain. It's the number one reason for wage theft. It defunds our local, economies because people aren't paying taxes. Payroll taxes don't get paid. It's the biggest scam going in at least our industry, in the construction industry. And workers have been held back for a long time. This model has been used for a long time in the construction industry.
No, I remember I was 18. I was working building houses, and the guy would come pay us in cash. And one day, some idiot shot a nail into my foot, and they're like, "Yeah, just go home." And I'm going, "No, I'm going to the doctor." He goes, "Well, we don't. You could pay for it." And that was my first experience in being misclassified as a non-employee, and I never went back to work there again. But and that was 30 plus years ago. So you're right, this hasn't gone away. Last question on this: do you think we're gonna get this through? Do you think the Democrats are gonna have the spine to move it?
We're gonna find out. What we know for sure is it's two things, right? Number one, any politician, Democrat or Republican, will never have the support of the painters union again. if they don't go on record in support and move this issue. And we're damn close to saying, if you're not in support of also removing the current form of the filibuster, we're not going to support you either, because the time's now, right? So we're going to find out. I know one thing for sure. This president of the United States has done more in 50 days than we've seen a Democratic president do for working people, that we've had lip service forever. I know for a fact the leadership in the Senate wants to move forward. We're going to find out. We're going to find out.
No, Joe Biden's been the most pro-labor president of my lifetime. In fact, on day one, I argue he was the most pro-union president in my lifetime by firing Peter Robb and sending him to the curb in the most unceremonious of fashions. I want to get your thoughts. Got about a minute here.
Sure.
You guys came out recently and are supporting and have partnered with the Blue-Green Alliance. Obviously, the Blue-Green Alliance is a group that brings labor and environmental groups together to fight on the climate issues and our environment. Why'd you guys jump into that?
It just makes sense. I mean, the time's right? We're talking about a potential $1 or $2 billion infrastructure package. The coalition that got Joe Biden elected was not just labor unions. It's the climate justice community. Our members can stand to benefit. And if you couple all of that with the passage of the PRO Act, we can reorganize, and we can also clean up our climate for future generations. We like to say, not only do we want our kids to live in a clean environment, we want our kids to also have unions.
No, absolutely. And as a guy we had on the other day from the Blue-Green Alliance said, because we were talking about it, and he said, because we were talking about the big windmill project off the coast of Martha's Vineyard, and he said that the painter guy told him there's a lot of paint on those windmills, and I'm going, I get it.
And a project labor agreement.
There you go. Good stuff. And when you come back, we can talk about that and why that's important as we move forward, because hopefully a big infrastructure bill on the horizon. But good day today. Jimmy, I appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Jimmy Williams, General Vice President at Large of the International Painters Union and Allied Trade Union. Check out their website, IUPAT.org, the website. We'll get links out. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. For working people on the talk.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.